For much of the nuclear age, China positioned itself differently from the United States and Russia. While Washington and Moscow amassed thousands of warheads, Beijing maintained a smaller force, arguing that even a limited capacity was enough to deter attack. But in recent years, China's approach has changed, and analysts now point to a significant nuclear expansion that is reshaping the global balance of power. The first major turning point came in 2019. During a military parade marking National Day, China unveiled the DF-41 intercontinental ballistic missile in full formation. For the wider public, it was a display of military strength. For foreign observers, it was a clear signal. China now possessed long-range missiles capable of reaching multiple targets, and potentially in significant numbers. This raised the threshold for any adversary considering military escalation. Soon after, commercial satellite imagery revealed large fields of missile silos under construction in regions such as Yunnan, Hami, and Ordos. These findings suggested that China was moving from a posture of minimal deterrence toward sustained, large-scale development. By 2023, the U.S. Department of Defense estimated that China had surpassed 500 operational nuclear warheads, a sharp increase from just a few years earlier. The second turning point came between 2023 and 2024. Two developments stood out. First, Russia reportedly delivered several tons of fast reactor fuel to China, strengthening Beijing's ability to produce fissile material. Although neither government confirmed the details, Western defense officials concluded that China's capacity to expand its arsenal had become more secure. Second, China appeared to alter its readiness posture. Traditionally, Chinese nuclear warheads were stored separately from their missiles and only loaded during crises. But reports in 2024 suggested that Beijing may now keep a portion of its arsenal on constant alert, both in land-based brigades and aboard submarines. This would give China the ability to respond immediately if attacked, a significant shift in doctrine. By 2025, estimates from international research institutes and U.S. defense assessments converged on a figure of at least 600 Chinese nuclear warheads, with the number continuing to grow. For decades, China's strategy was based on limited retaliation. The assumption was that the threat of inflicting millions of casualties would be enough to deter any aggressor. However, Beijing's thinking may have shifted in response to new realities. The COVID-19 pandemic showed that the United States, despite losing over 1 million lives, maintained its political and social stability. From Beijing's perspective, this raised doubts about whether its existing arsenal could impose enough costs to deter Washington. At the same time, U.S. advances in missile defense, long-range strike capabilities, and military planning for a Taiwan conflict created additional pressure. Chinese strategists may now believe that only a larger and more survivable arsenal can guarantee a credible second strike, the ability to retaliate even after absorbing an initial blow. Even with its recent growth, China's nuclear stockpile remains far smaller than those of the United States and Russia, which each hold several thousand warheads. Yet the pace of expansion is notable. Between 2019 and 2025, China's arsenal has roughly doubled, and the trend shows no signs of slowing. Unlike Washington and Moscow, China is not bound by arms control agreements such as the New START Treaty, which limits deployed warheads and delivery systems. With U.S.-Russia restrictions weakening and Russia suspending compliance, global nuclear norms are eroding. This leaves China free to expand without legal constraints, potentially complicating future arms control efforts. For the United States, this creates a dilemma. Any attempt to compete directly with China could reignite a three-way nuclear arms race involving both Beijing and Moscow. This would place enormous strain on U.S. resources and political consensus. Despite the rapid buildup, analysts caution against assuming that China seeks nuclear parity with the U.S. or Russia. The underlying logic appears to remain deterrence, not preparation for war. By expanding its arsenal, China aims to eliminate the possibility that rivals might gamble on a limited nuclear exchange or assume that allies in the region could avoid risk by siding against Beijing. In essence, China's strategy is to raise the costs of aggression so high that adversaries decide it is not worth the risk. Expansion, in this sense, is less about battlefield advantage and more about preventing miscalculation. Looking forward, the central question is not whether China can build more nuclear weapons. It clearly can, but how far it intends to go. Beijing does not need to match Washington or Moscow warhead for warhead. Its primary goal is ensuring that, in any scenario, potential adversaries conclude that a nuclear strike on China would be self-defeating. The coming years will show whether this expansion stabilizes deterrence or fuels a new era of nuclear competition. What is certain is that China's nuclear policy is no longer static. It is evolving and the consequences will ripple far beyond its borders.